Okay, we're going to start Unit 4B. This is our first thing we're talking about is Pythagorean Theorem. So today we have some notes to take on it. These would be notes that you would normally do in class, but of course you're going to do them here at home. Make sure you're taking notes as you go. So here we go. Pythagorean, and also just pause the video if you're not there yet. You can just pause and then to write things down, and then pick it back up when you're ready to go. So first of all, right triangle is a triangle with one right angle. So that's just our definition, right? A triangle with one right angle. And by right angle, we know that that equals 90 degrees. The legs of the triangle, and this is important to make sure you understand when you're doing this, the legs are perpendicular to each other. So these are the sides of the triangle that form the right angle. In other words, they are perpendicular to each other. This right here, this upside down T, that means perpendicular. And then we have the hypotenuse. The hypotenuse is the side that's opposite the right angle. And that symbol there is angle. Also, it's one thing to keep in mind with the hypotenuse, it's always going to be your longest side. The other thing to keep in mind is when you're using Pythagorean theorem, it's always going to be the part that's labeled C. That will never change. It's always going to be the part that is labeled C. All right, then we do have actually Pythagorean theorem. This describes, and we did this today in a lab in class, but this describes the relationship between the lengths of the legs and the hypotenuse for any right triangle. Remember, this only works with right triangles. And again, our Pythagorean theorem is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Or you could also write it this way, obviously. But this is, I will tell you, this is the way it's written on your formula sheet when you go to use it. But again, you really should be able to memorize this and use it every time we are doing anything with right triangles. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to find the missing side. And on all of these, we're going to round to the nearest tenth. And you can kind of use that same rule for everything because obviously you're going to have to do some rounding with these. Now, one of the things to keep in mind is the legs. Now, we talked about this a minute ago. I'm going to highlight them in red here. This is a leg and this is a leg. The legs are perpendicular to each other and they make up the right angle right here. So those are my legs. The legs are always going to be your A and your B. So I'm going to go ahead and call this one A and I'm going to call this one B. That makes my hypotenuse, which I'll do over, I'll leave it, actually I'll just leave it in the blue. My hypotenuse is C. And that's what I'm trying to find there. So I'm going to go ahead and use my formula. We always start with a picture first, so we have a picture, and then the formula. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So I'm literally plugging in the numbers that I have for A and B, because that's all I have. A is 9, so I'm going to put 9 and it's squared, 9 squared. I'm not doing the square yet, I'm just going to go ahead and write it down, just plugging in 9 for A and that's it. I'm plugging in 12 for B, but I still have the square. And again, C is what I'm trying to find, so it's C squared. Now I'm going to go ahead and do some math here. So I'm going to go ahead and do 9 times 9 is 81, because that's my 9 squared. 12 squared, or 12 times 12 is 144. And that's going to still equal C squared. And again, I don't know what the C is yet. When I add these up right here, I wind up with 225. And 225 is going to equal C squared. Well, as we know from algebra, I cannot have a square with my C. I have to have my variable all by itself. So I have to get rid of the square. And the only way to get rid of a square is to do the opposite. The opposite of squaring a number is to do the square root of the number. So I'm going to do the square root of this. That cancels this out, and I'm left with C all by itself. If I do it on the right, I have to also do it on the left. So now that I do that, C is going to equal 15. The square root of 225 is 15. And so that means that my C up here equals 15 inches. And this is my answer. My hypotenuse, or that missing side, was 15 inches. Okay, we have another one here. And just showing it a little bit backward here. And just like I did before, I'm going to go ahead and label. I'm going to call this one A and this one B, and we're still trying to find C. So same formula, A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Plugging in for A, I have 100 squared. Plugging in for B, I have 200, and again squared is equal to C squared. Now I'm going to do some math here, the actual math. So 100 squared is 10,000. 200 squared is 40,000. It's going to equal C squared. When I add this up right here, I get 50,000. And that's going to equal C squared. And again, I need to find the square root of both of these to get rid of my square there. So it's going to equal C. And the square root of 50,000 is approximately 223.6 for the decimal there. And this was millimeters. So 223.6 millimeters. So this is my answer for C right there. Sometimes they're not going to give you a picture. They're going to give you just numbers, and you'll have to figure it out from there. Before I do anything, I'm going to draw a picture. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a picture over here to the side. They're actually giving me, here's my right angle, they're not giving me A. I'm going to call this A. So I don't know what A is. They are giving me B, that's 9. And they're actually giving me C is 12. So what I'm going to do here, same thing with the formula, A squared, because it's still a right triangle, to figure out the missing side. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So now I don't know A, so that's going to be A squared. Now the B squared is going to be 9 squared, and the C squared is going to be 12 squared. All right, so do a little bit of math. A squared plus 81 equals 144. Now, again, this is algebra. I need to move this 81. I need to get rid of it from this side and put it on the right-hand side, because I want the A to be alone on the left-hand side. That means I'm going to minus 81 from both sides. That's going to cancel it out here and leave me with the A squared. So A squared is equal to 63. Again, I need to find the square root of this. I'm just showing you the color just to remind you what we're doing there. Square root of both of these, that cancels out. So A is going to equal 7.9 feet. And that is my measurement for right up there, 7.9 feet. Okay, now we have the same idea. I'm going to draw another picture. But again, labeling it up what we have, we know that my legs are always A and B, so A is equal to 3. B, I don't know. And I could interchange that. Like I said, A could be at the bottom here, and B could be on the vertical one. But C, again, is going to be 8. So this time I'm trying to find B. So the same thing. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So that means 3 squared plus B squared equals 8 squared. That means that 9, oh, not squared, 9 plus b squared is equal to 64. Again, I need to get rid of the 9 now from this, so I'm going to minus 9 from both sides. So I'm going to minus 9 from both sides. This cancels out. I have a positive b squared, so that's good. So this is b squared, it can stay b squared, is equal to 55. And again, I need to do the square root of both of these to get rid of this. And then that means that b is equal to 7.4 meters. And that's this part right up here. Okay, one of the other things that they're going to have you do is you're going to need to determine or identify if a right triangle is, or if it is actually a right triangle based on just 3 measurements. So looking at these 3 measurements, I kind of have to figure out what's my A, what's my B, and what's my C. So I'm going to go ahead and use these numbers and go from there. But I'm going to count one of them as A, one of them as B, and one of them as C. If you remember from our first page of the notes, we said that the longest side is my hypotenuse, and we said hypotenuse is always going to be C. So this one right here is going to be my C. Again, 18 can be A or 18 can be B. I'm just going to kind of go in order. So now I'm going to go ahead and do that. That means that A squared plus B squared equals C squared. That means that 18 squared plus 24 squared equals 30 squared. That's what we're saying. If this works, and it's true, and we get this side is equal to this side, then that is going to be what it is. That makes it a right triangle. If it's not the same on both sides, then it is not a right triangle. So as we do this math, 18 times 18 is 324. 24 times 24 is 576. And 30 times 30 is 900. All right, so I'm going to add this up. I want to add that up. I get 900 is equal to 900. Okay, well, that's a true statement. 900 does equal 900. Therefore, this does check out, and yes, this up here is, these measurements do make a right triangle, so that is true. All right, let's look at our next example here, number 2. Now, notice my numbers here. Sorry. Notice my numbers. They are not in the same order. Remember, the longest side is C. So I'm going to call this A, I'm going to call this C. 7 is clearly longer than 4 and 5, and I'll call this B. Same formula, A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So I've got 4 squared plus 5 squared is equal to 7 squared. Okay, so doing this math, that means that 16 plus 25 is equal to 49. 49 stays here, but 16 and 25 is actually 41. These are not the same. 41 does not equal 49. So this is wrong, and so this would be a no. This does not make a right triangle. So these here, this is a no. It's not a right triangle. Okay, that's the key thing on this. It's not a right triangle. Alrighty, you do need to make sure that you have all these notes taken down, because I will be looking at your notes next class, and this will be your homework grade for tonight. There is no quiz with this video. You just need to make sure you have all the notes taken down exactly as I've shown you here. If you're missing any of the notes, I will not give you full credit on next class. Hope you have a good evening.